righty, should we talk about this program that you, again, Brian, you say, it would be an idea we should watch the TNA since they've made the shakeups and the changes in the organization. And now I see why people were getting fired. If I had been behind the camera at this television taping, some heads would have rolled, I'm pretty sure, to begin with, too. Can you now understand? Maybe some more of these future endeavors are justified now after watching this It was March 27th that they aired this thing.
Say what this thing is. I don't think you've actually said the name of the show.
TNA Wrestling, TNA Impact Wrestling.
Impact Wrestling.
What do they call themselves now? I mean, I know that there's a level of. They did a long opening recap video that I didn't really understand because I didn't know what the fuck had been going on because we hadn't been watching the show. I'm not talking about being confused as to who people are or how they're interacting with each other. I'm talking about being confused as to what the fuck that they think they're trying to pull here. This was just, again, as I said at the top of the program, either bad indie wrestling with a lower budget or the fucking comedians. They think they're improv fucking performers. They all are either auditioning to be the next hot thing at fucking the Laugh Factory, or it's goddamn more indie wrestling, but not with the budget of AEW. Can you deny that as an overall statement is pretty on the mark after having watched this 2-hour television program?
I thought it resembled developmental. I don't know if it was just because of this taping, the camera angle, where it was, but it reminded me of OVW in the second Davis Arena in terms of the look.
Oh, no, I'll fight you if you.
In terms of the look. In terms of the look.
Okay, all right.
The camera angle.
Well, no, they had a big crowd. They were in El Paso. This is a big crowd for them.
And it seemed like a very hot crowd. And, they had Chavo on the show, and the crowd was really into him. No, this wasn't good. I didn't like this at all. And people have been begging us to watch it. Anything we don't watch, they say it's great. We need to watch it, whether it's NXT.
Did we just hit them on an off week?
I don't know, because a lot of their big stars were on the show. And it was...
They were?
I mean, that world title segment with Joe Hendry and Elias and Frankie Kazarian on bass was just dreadful.
And we go... And it's Ringo on the skin flute.
But I guess we'll get there. There's a lot to go over.
Well, the show opens with the personal concierge in the ring. He's a clowny comedy manager. He looks like if Luther in AEW wasn't as fat and older. Who is this fucking guy? Have you ever seen this fucking guy? But who is this? Who is this fucking guy?
I have no idea who he is. I've never seen him.
It had to be a rib where he's one of the guys that works backstage or in the office somewhere, and they've given him a role to play because it's embarrassing. It was obviously a guy who didn't really know what the fuck he was doing, but he's a mark and he's trying to play the bad guy manager role. And he's got ugly guys dressed as male strippers. They're fucking horrible physiques and tattoos everywhere and snotty hair, but they've got the bow ties on and no shirt. That's they gave me sour belches. And they're going to have a celebration for, I guess, his two girls that he's about to introduce have won the titles, so they're going to have a party and celebrate with the strippers and blah, blah, blah. These are the kind of strippers you would have tipped them to put more clothes on. And then he introduced Miss Heather and Ash by Elegance. Is by Elegance a last name, or is the first one named Miss Heather and the second one named Ash by Elegance, or are they the by Elegance twins, Heather and Ash?
Oh, I don't know.
What did you...
I know Ash is, because I've seen that name before. She's the woman named like a fragrance. I don't know about Miss Heather.
Well, the fragrance of this fucking match was Pond water. It was them against from NXT, Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley. So I wrote, what the fuck? I can't get away from that. The first thing I see on this new adventure I'm taking in this different promotion I'm watching is a fucking girls match with girls from the fucking NXT. And the first 30 seconds, it looked like the drunks playing Twister. I'm not sure who the heels were supposed to be because they all looked fairly bitchy. But Heather and Ash win. Heather and Ash won. But as they were at ringside celebrating, there was a cake at ringside. So they got down and turned their backs on the people, the girls they had just beat. And old Gigi and Tatum crawled over and grabbed one of the girls and smashed her face in the cake and then ate it off of her. As a veteran of cakes, ladies and gentlemen, not only was this the phoniest and most unexciting performance of the cake smashing face business that has ever been done, but I don't remember Ricky and Robert or the Fantastics or any of the other fucking people actually eating any of the cake off me. But I mean, it was the facial expression when they grabbed her. There was no build to anticipation because you knew what was going to happen so much longer before it happened because they milked it forever. And it was just like they're performing an old bit. And you can't perform old bits like you're performing an old bit because that's what you get. You get an old bit. And it's shit. What'd you think?
I didn't think much of this whole thing. We're opening the show seeing a women's tag match featuring some character who I've never seen before in his male strippers. And then they do the cake thing at the end. This is my intro to this product because I haven't watched it in forever. And everyone's like, oh, you got to see it. It's good. And it also felt, even though they lost, it just felt like an NXT feeder. I don't know. I mean, the NXT people appear here feel like big stars, and they're made out to be big stars. It almost feels like a bizarro NXT. You know what I mean? Because not everyone's in developmental. Some of these people have been in the ring for 20 years, and they're here. But it felt like a weird developmental show to me, the whole thing.
Well, you say the people take to them like stars, and they look like they may present them as stars, but I don't know if they look like stars.
No, I agree with that.
Well, and a good example of that was the next match was a 6-man tag team match, and they're in El Paso, and that's the home of the Guerreros, and Chavo Guerrero Jr. was there, and he was probably one of the better looking, more professional performers on the program. His partners were the Aztec Warriors, Octagoncito and Salento Rodriguez. I don't remember what their fucking names were, but they wrestled Frankie Kazarian again. My God, he was probably the most professional looking altogether athlete on this program as far as work and physique, and at least in the ring. Wait till he gets in the fucking promo later on. And a guy, JP Navarro, that's what I heard. And Flop Dollar. Flop Dollar is there. And this went a while, and it was kind of schizophrenic. There was some nice wrestling when Kazarian and Chavo were involved. There was a bunch of phony-looking lucha with the Aztec Warriors and JP Pirtle or whatever his fucking name is. One of the lucha guys, the first thing he did was a head palm shoot off it. I swear, if I could have shot my television screen. Just here you go. And then Flop got in. And of course, I had to watch out of morbid curiosity. And he still gets natural heat because he's so rotten at everything. But he, in the middle of it, he acts and poses like he's a star. So they have him, I assume purposely, do almost nothing but, gloat about it. And it works. He gets heat, but then he tries to do something and it kind of ruins it. Chavo got a big pop for his hot tag and a comeback. And then he beat old JP with a frog splash. He got a big pop because he's from El Paso, the Guerrero family, and they knew who the fuck he was. And, but this wasn't like anything that you would want to see more of on a regular basis, was it?
No, not at
No.
all. It was nice to see Chavo. I haven't seen Chavo wrestle in quite a while. I mean, they brought up he's been doing stuff in Hollywood. He worked on Glow and a lot of other things.
He does a lot of, the coordination of the wrestling scenes and or whatever for television production.
I still like the idea of a hometown guy in a hometown, and he's not treated like a jerk off. And if you looked at some of the people there, it didn't look like the people that are just going to any wrestling show. Like, it looked like old regulars or just older people I saw in the crowd.
Yeah, well, not older people, but regular people.
Yeah. It seemed like
regular people that you could tell weren't like the normal wrestling fan crowd. And they did, because they had a good crowd in an old time wrestling city, but they obviously did some decent local promotion to get that crowd in there. And they weren't all just, your regular jaded wrestling fan. Good local promotion. That's why they fired the guy that was doing the local promotion. All right. So we got to talk about the pre-tape. They're still doing the spooky music. They were doing that fucking, when I was there, in the background of the pre-tape. Santino Marella is the authority figure. I don't think they call him the commissioner, the general manager, the fucking jizz mopper, whoever's running that place. And he's still using the goofy accent. And he's sitting there with Mance Warner and Sammy Callahan. But they're both handcuffed, not to each other. They're just in handcuffs so that they can't get in a fight with each other. And or as Santino said, you're both handcuffed so you don't leave in a death bag. And they're standing there with 4 security guards consisting of outlaw wrestlers that you can tell a mile away, and some girl sitting with Mance Warner. And by the way, is Santino Marella being the general manager of a wrestling promotion kind of like Mo Howard getting out of the movies and becoming the head of Columbia Pictures?
Well, no, Mo had good ideas, but, he couldn't necessarily run the marketing department or anything. The sad thing is I thought Santino was the best one in this whole thing. He's at least, he's committed to what he does. It's like Tony Storm. I think he's a good comedic performer, even though he didn't do it here. This was kind of like, Jerry Lewis when he made this. I can't compare him to Jerry Lewis.
What was the name of his serious movie? Goddamn, I can't remember it
King
now.
of Comedy.
King of Comedy.
King of Comedy. I lost my mind there for a second. But this is not like Jerry Lewis making the King of Comedy.
It's not. No.
This is, and I've never really seen this Mance Warner. I've seen his name before, and I've never.
Well,
I haven't seen Sammy Callahan, but I've seen his name before, and yeah.
Well, I saw both of them in the same place. Mance Warner, when I did the MLW tapings, Mance Warner was the Southern Psychopath, and they were using him as a baby face. And he was a good old boy, from, can't remember where his fucking hometown, but he had, the gimmick hometown and whatever the fuck. And he, I saw something there that he had personality. He could work a little bit and he could talk a little bit, and he was different. Everybody else was trying to be the fucking indie superstar, mode wrestler. And here was this guy. And I tried to, while I was there, they had me producing a lot of his promos and some of his matches, whatever. And I was trying to bring that part out of him because I thought he's different. He's unusual. He has a gimmick. This could work somewhere, right? You could draw money. I swear to God, as soon as I said something good about somebody, a month later, after I'd finished the last show that I did with them, I saw him on Twitter having a match with the Invisible Man. And then he's done the garbage championship wrestling matches where he gets different parts of himself stapled to the turnbuckle and shit. So that's another guy that I tried to say something good about that I ended up having to be sorry for that. And then Callahan at the same MLW, he's the one that got fired that night for going into business for himself and fucking up shit in the building and then blame me for it. That's why I said it's a fucking rib. I do favors for people and end up having to work with these outlaw goofs that ain't even smart to the business. But he looked, as they were sitting at that table, like he's 100 pounds heavier than he was then. He looked like a fucking meatball. He's only like 5'7".
Oh, really?
Yes, he's a short.
He looked gigantic.
Guy.
No, I've never really seen him before. He was massive. I didn't think he was 5'7".
That's what I'm saying. I mean, he came up to me, and I think the top of his head was somewhere around my upper lip. You know, but he looked giant, so I don't know what the fuck, but he was shaped like a warthog to begin with. But anyway, they were pissed at each other and cut a promo with edit to each other. And as I said, Mance Warner can talk a little bit. Callahan does the put on growly voice. He's kind of like a True Value Moxley. He does the same kind of shit. He drinks bones and eats blood and all that shit. And then the girl with Mance Warner threw coffee in Callahan's eyes. And I'm like, wait a minute. Up till then, I realized I didn't know which one the babyface was. I guess Callahan's the babyface because the girl with the other one threw, well, the girl with Mance Warner threw coffee in Callahan's eyes and he said, ah! So how are they the babyfaces?
Was it coffee?
But then you've got...
Because he was selling it like it was acid.
Yeah, somebody was swinging a bottle of fucking bleach. This ain't AEW. She picked it up off the fucking table. They don't drink bleach and fucking TNA. But
sure
I mean,
are you so sure about that?
Well, somebody may be drinking some kind of goddamn huffing something here with it. But yes, but the fat fucking short guy with the growly put on voice is apparently is a baby face. Either that or just who gives a shit? I don't know. What'd you think?
What were they building up to? They're having a match of what's the stipulation? What are they doing?
I don't remember because it was also with the music was throwing me off from trying, and everybody was growling.
The music sucked.
Everybody's growling and trying to be De Niro in a fucking scene from a Tarantino movie or some shit instead of being able to speak plainly and tell everybody who you are. And the music was distracting. So I don't really know what they were. They're mad at each other and they've done a lot to each other and they want to do more. That's what I got out of it. Would you like to go on to the women's title match? Yes, we got another girls match, ladies and gentlemen, with more NXT talent. Jane Wayne Gacy, the partner of Gigi Dolan and Tatum O'Neal. And they had another girl that was also spooky and named after some kind of serial killer. I can't remember. But she wrestled Marcia Slamovich. And Tessa Blanchard was barred from ringside. And I said, well, shit. Because I'd like to see Tessa Blanchard see what the fuck her work looks like these days. Well, hold on. This took a while. It went across the 9 o'clock hour. I guess they don't really have to worry about ratings because the network owns them. And does Access get ratings? Are they far enough up yet to qualify for the ratings?
I don't think so.
So Masha won with a suplex. Is it Masha or Marcia? They were saying, I think she's Russian. They were saying Masha.
Yeah, I thought it was Marcia. It turns out it was Masha. Who knew?
Well, I like Marcia better, so I think it's going to be Marcia.
Oh, so you're going to be watching more of Marcia. It sounds
maybe not, because Mildred Burke's reputation is safe from these two young ladies. But then Tessa jumped Marcia and got on top of her, and here we go, and she beat the teetotal shit out of the mat and the air next to Marcia's head. She looked like she meant it. She was mad at that fucking oxygen. And then some other girls came out and she ran off. And I was like, well, that was a letdown.
See, I didn't know if it was just me. It sounds like it was just me. My DVR, because I watched it after the fact, it cut when Masha had her hand raised, and then it cut to Tessa on the floor, and then it cut again to the other two girls standing there.
Oh, no, you missed all that stuff.
Yeah,
then.
apparently I missed all that. I thought it was bad editing. Maybe they fired the editor. They're firing everyone else. But it may have just been my DVR.
Well, and then again, the next match, Eric Young and Ace Austin. I remember Ace Austin from MLW. He's gained some weight, looks a lot better physically. This match did not grab me. Eric Young won with a nice pile driver. But then, this is kind of what I was watching for until I saw it. Here came Joe Hendry. Say his name and he will appear. The TNA champion. We were talking about this a few weeks ago. We've heard he gets all kinds of attention, publicity. We've heard all kinds of stuff about him. He's marketed himself in a wonderful way and got over to the point where they put the TNA title on him. And he's gotten interest from NXT. And the fans, out of anybody on the show, the fans were waving. They had the signs. They had more reaction, to him than anybody on the show. And they're chanting, "We believe, we believe." And I mentioned I hadn't seen any of him, heard any of him, whatever. So he's doing a promo. He's got the accent because he's British, but you can understand him. He's got a grown-up male voice. He doesn't scream at the top of his lungs like Jay White over and over, or he doesn't sound like a British garbage disposal like Osprey or unintelligible. He's got an accent, but you can understand him. He's got a grown-up voice. The people seem to take to him. He doesn't talk long. He says he'll put the title up against anyone from any company. And then the music interrupts, but it's not like recorded music. It's a guitar. And who walks out? It's fucking Elias. And now his name is Elijah. But he's not Elijah from Norcross, Georgia that keeps asking the good questions about Nigerian wrestling. He's Elijah that used to be Elijah's before he was Ezekiel, before he was expelled. And they still do the same thing. He's got the guitar. And he comes out and he says he believes in Joe Hendry too. And he tells Joe, "You can trust me. I'm your friend. I want to sing you a song, your favorite song." And he's saying, "You've got a friend in me." And I wrote, this is fucking horrible.
Oh, no, come on.
And it was about to get worse.
That's a great Randy Newman song.
Not the way he did it.
Oh, no.
But just, I will let you comment here because it's going to get worse if people can believe that is possible. But already, what the fuck is going on here, Brian? They say that, well, I'll ask you that. I heard Uncle Dave, making a gripe and a bitch because Tony shouldn't be hiring these ex-AE or the ex-WWE guys because it just looks like cast-offs. He got Lashley, a former world champion, and Shelton Benjamin, who hadn't been on a program in a while, and they're the biggest things in the company. This is what WWE cast-off looks like. That's the question.
I don't know exactly what the question was, but no, this is bad. This is the kind of thing you would see on WWE for a long time, that it seemed to entertain the person in charge more than it ever would the audience. Maybe there's some of the audience that was along for the ride here, but this did not make me want to see any more Joe Hendry. I already felt that way about Elias. I didn't even know he was there. But yeah, I did not like this at all.
Well, and then Kazarian interrupts. Because now I don't know whether Elias is a heel or not. Maybe there's problems with Elias and Hendry. But even though Elias said he was a friend, but Kazarian comes out and he hates both of them. And he's got a bass guitar. And he plays a little cucaracha so the fans can chant, "You suck." And then he sings the song El Paso with new words like as I saw the fat, sweaty girls in El Paso or whatever the fuck. And it just kept going. And then Joe Hendry said, well, I'd like the fans' opinion on that. Boo. And they tried to do some comedy. And then Joe Hendry told Frankie to get out, but Frankie told Joe Hendry and Elias they should fight each other. But then they started to beat him up together. But then Frankie shoved Elias at Joe Hendry and they almost collided, which would have been certain doom and they would have fought. But then fucking Frankie bailed and Elias and Joe Hendry stared at each other. And then they turned around and cooperated in playing Sha-na-na-na, Hey, 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 Goodbye by that incredible group.
Yeah, it's
Sha-na-na.
It's not Sha-na-na-na. It's Na-na-na-na.
Yeah, no. No. He's on the other show too. This was rotten and it went forever. And it was like bad sports entertainment. That's what either
developmental. I told you this felt like Bizarro NXT, but with veterans.
They've all got to either go for the fucking, the comedy club performance or the round-offs and cartwheels of the floor exercise. Nothing's different in wrestling anymore. Almost nothing is serious and different and eye-catching and not the same old pretend dreck because everybody's got their tongue stuck in their cheek or head up their ass, one or the other. And then Nick Nemeth wrestled Leon Slater. Leon Slater looks like one of the unknown rappers with mark belts in the crowd at a WWE show. And approximately the same body weight. And I think Nick Nemeth's work is great, but seriously, I don't know. Ryan interfered. Ryan's been blackballed from wrestling, so he has to work in TNA. And Nemeth caught him with his finish, 1, 2, 3, and then the Hardy brothers limped to the ring. And they apparently really are banged up because they had another one of these fucking matches. Matt's head was all busted open. They could barely walk. The commentators had to say, they're banged up, but they're still here. And they challenged both of the Nemeths to a match at the next pay-per-view named something at some time. This was not as stupid as an AEW show and not as just egregiously self-indulgent. The production, okay. The creative is not wonderful at all, but there's no stars. I mean, we haven't seen Hendry work yet. Haven't seen Tessa in a match. I don't see anybody else that's particularly fucking interesting to you at this point.
I thought it was a rotten show. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it looked. It didn't even look like it was in HD. And I think it's an HD channel.
It used to be HD Net.
Yeah. I thought it was
they bought it and downgraded it.
I thought it was a bad wrestling show. Even the commentary just felt forced. And, they just fired a ton of people. I say just over the last several months. We just had the last round of them. And they're bringing in lots of people who have no wrestling background. If all of this is the result of people with wrestling backgrounds, maybe it's time for a switch.
Well, no, hold on now.
Maybe it's time for a change.
Hold on now. They got rid of Ariel Schneerer, and he didn't have any wrestling background. They brought other people, but they've got Delirious in charge of the book, and they got Dreamer in talent relations. So the other people in marketing or television production, we probably shouldn't expect to know who they are. So I guess what I'm saying is, yes, I would have fired almost anybody involved in this. But since they did, maybe it'll change. I don't know what to say. But that, that's our report on TNA. But they're just a big signing away. Why? And they could get one of these top free agents that's available, Brian, and somebody with a major name with a huge following, and they could just sign them up, and then it'd be sunshine, lollipops, rainbows, and waterfalls from there. Well, look at the list of people that they could sign. Well, it's It's endless, isn't it? You know why it's endless? Because it never gets started. There's nobody they can fucking sign. So it looks to me like they need to go in another line of work entirely.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, it's too bad there isn't an online store that sells wrestlers who are stars.
Well, I was saying that they ought to just take and fire everybody else and just get into a goddamn business that they could have Shopify host their online store. Like we did. Shopify is powering our t-shirt business now. If we plug that again, by the way, since it's been so long since the top of the program, just check out the brand new Drive-Thru t-shirts and other merchandise. And that's powered by Shopify. Brian, are we or are we not on the coveted Shop app?
We are
right now.
We are indeed available. Our merchandise available through the Shop app. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Well, you actually, you told me that somebody can buy me specifically if they pay enough. And, and then, of course, tips are optional, but appreciated, ladies and gentlemen. But no matter what you want to sell or who you want to sell it to or who you want to sell to what, Shopify can help you sell one thing to another and then bring it back again and turn around and sell it again. Because Shopify is the number one checkout on the planet. They boost conversions up to 50%. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Carts will not be abandoned on their watch. I'll tell you that. No. If you try to get out of that cart in Shopify's world, boom, an electric shock straight through the computer. Your little nads will be fried if you try to get out without spending that money, pal. And that's why Shopify can make you more money than just these average jacklegs hanging around the corner. Now, let's say somebody on the corner says, I tell you what, I can go over there and I can muscle that guy into giving you $5. And he goes over and he just gives him a little elbow to the side of the head and he takes $5, he brings it back to you. Now, you may think, well, that was an easy transaction. But Shopify wouldn't do that, Brian. You know what Shopify would do? Shopify would go over there, and Shopify wouldn't, boom, give that guy an elbow upside the head. Shopify would just lean over and say, let me tell you something, pal. You better give that guy over there in the corner $5 every day because we know where you live.
It's
the implied.
No, there's nothing implied.
It's the implied insinuation that keeps those repeat customers coming back to give you $5 every day so nothing happens to them.
You have your products are good, people want to support them and purchase them. There's no need for any sort of strong-arming.
That's what I'm saying. You got some fine products there. It'd be ashamed if anything happened to them.
No, that is not what will be happening. Shopify is corruption-free and there for you to sell your products directly to Mr. and Mrs. America.
Yes, they have no knowledge of any improprieties or activities that are below the boundaries of the law. They can't remember any of that stuff, and they will take the Fifth Amendment whenever they're hauled into court. But nevertheless, folks, again, Shopify, they can sell ice to an Eskimo. They can sell feces to a monkey. Certainly, they can sell your shit. And you can upgrade your business and get the same checkout and platform that the big boys are using so you can be worldwide, nationwide, and 3 feet wide. Sign up for a $1 a month trial period right now. $1 a month to show you what they can do for you. With that cash register, $1 a month trial period at Shopify.com/JCE. That's all lowercase now. Shopify.com/JCE. to upgrade your selling today and convince people around your neighborhood that they better pony up if they know what's good for them.
Shopify. Sell your legitimate products in a legitimate way with a partner you can trust. Shopify. One more time, Jim. That promo code, that email, that link for people to use.
Yes, JCE. That's the missing link. With a smile on your face, you're going to hand that money over. All right, what are you doing over there smiling at the Arcadian Vanguard Network this week?
Another joyous week on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. And information about all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcast or on Facebook. Facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. Of course, Each and every day, get the wrestling news. Get it for free and get it from thewrestlingnews.com or wherever you find your favorite podcast. All the news that has happened, no opinion, no conjecture, no star ratings, no paywall, no clickbait, just the wrestling news. Get it today. Want to make mention?
No goddamn end to that bit.
Want to make mention of Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon? Some really great episodes you should check out. Keith Elliott Greenberg was recently on the show to talk about Bigger, Better, Badder, his WrestleMania 3 book. And just this past week, Barbara Goodish, the widow of Bruiser Brody. Hear her today. Hear all of these episodes, suawpod.com, or look for Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon wherever you find your favorite podcast. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! Yeah, my voice cracked there. Go through the archive. I heard your sound machine just fine. 605pod.com. Available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The Mothership. Some stuff in the works. Stay tuned.